In this video, we will understand what is meant by best interest and how it can be applied while preparing an SIR. Section 3 of the JJ Act 2015 requires the CWC and all functionaries to make sure that all actions and decisions are based on the primary consideration that they are in the best interests of the child. Having been directed by the CWC to prepare the SIR, your role is to provide a comprehensive assessment of the child and their situation. The SIR must contain reasons, analysis, and recommendations based on your assessment of the child's best interests. This can help ensure that the CWC's orders are in the best interests of the child.
So, what is meant by the term best interest of the child? Is it what feels right to you or other adults and authorities? This term is defined in Section 2, Subclause 9 of the JJ Act to mean the basis for any decision taken regarding the child to ensure fulfillment of the child's basic rights and needs, identity, social well-being, and physical, emotional, and intellectual development. Best interest is also a fundamental principle in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, an international treaty that India acceded to in 1992, which is also mentioned in the preamble of the JJ Act, which outlines the objectives of this law. The Committee on the Rights of the Child is a body of experts who issue general comments that explain how to implement the UNCRC. They have identified 7 elements which have to be taken into account when assessing and determining an individual child's best interest. They are the child's views, the child's identity, preservation of family environment and maintaining relations, care, protection and safety of the child, situation of vulnerability, the child's right to health, and the child's right to education. Let's try and understand each of these in the context of preparing an SIR.
The first element is the child's views. It is the right of every child to be heard in matters affecting them. For instance, a 17-year-old pregnant girl who has eloped with a partner may not wish to return to her parents due to fear of violence and may also wish to terminate her pregnancy. Whereas a 13-year-old boy rescued from child labor may wish to return to his family. While making this SIR, note the child's views while factoring the child's age, ability, and maturity. Take the support of art materials, dolls, or interpreters to enable small children or children with learning or intellectual disabilities to express themselves. The views of the children and the reasons should be mentioned in the SIR and factored into your analysis and recommendations after balancing it with the other elements of best interests. For details on incorporating the 7 elements of best interests into SIR Form 22 under the JJ Act, you can refer to this document.
The second element is the child's identity. Children have diverse identities such as their gender, caste, tribe, religion, disability, sexual orientation, and more. Understanding the child's special vulnerabilities can help you identify relevant entitlements and schemes. For instance, if the child belongs to the Parthi community, this can be highlighted and applicable schemes may be identified in the recommendations. The third element is the preservation of the child's family environment and maintaining relations. The term family has been defined as a group of persons related by blood, adoption, or marriage. Recommendations to separate the child from the family should be the very last option in the light of the fundamental principles of family responsibility and institutionalization as a measure of last resort. If required, such separation should be temporary and periodically reviewed. Non-institutional options such as restoration to a family or guardian, foster care, kinship care, adoption, or placement with a fit person can be explored. Recommendations of family strengthening measures like sponsorship, government schemes can help ensure that separation is not merely because of poverty. If a child is unwilling to return home, efforts should be made to understand their reluctance and record it in the SIR. Note that Rule 82B, Subclause 3, JJ Model Rules, clarifies that an unwilling child should not be coerced, shamed, or forced into returning home for any reason.
The fourth element is protection and safety of the child. Efforts must be made to assess and highlight all forms of risk to the child, like if the child is in a street situation, has been trafficked, or has been subjected to child labor, child marriage, or sexual abuse. A combination of techniques may have to be used to ascertain these risks, as the family or the child may take their time to develop trust and disclose sensitive information. For instance, in point 27 subclause B, types of abuse faced by the child, if the child is asked directly about any abuse, the child may not disclose it. More open-ended narratives-based questions might encourage the child to share more about their life. Concrete recommendations must be made for the safety and protection of the child, such as where the child can be placed, frequency of follow-ups, and need for witness protection in sensitive cases.
The fifth element is the situation of vulnerability. The SIR must assess and consider each child's unique vulnerabilities in relation to poverty, abuse, neglect, poor health, pregnancy, mental health, substance abuse, orphanhood, armed conflict, natural calamities, and the like. A child's best interest in a particular vulnerable situation may be different from other children in the same situation. For example, even if three brothers and sisters are found to have been trafficked for the purpose of labor, the risks faced by each of them, their needs, aspirations, strengths, and views, and their best interests may be different. Therefore, each child requires a distinct SIR and unique recommendations.
The sixth element is the child's right to health. Remember, health includes both physical and mental well-being. Document whether the child has any health needs and include copies of medical records if available. For instance, if a child is HIV positive, recommendations must indicate their ongoing treatment needs so that the CWC can ensure uninterrupted access to health services. Sponsorship and special schemes may also be suggested. Children in distress, especially those with suicidal thoughts or engaging in self-harm, need timely mental health support, which can be mentioned in the recommendations in the SIR.
The seventh element is the child's right to education. While assessing the child's education needs, collect all relevant information regarding the child's school, attendance, and examination schedule, and make efforts to meet the child's teacher. While making recommendations about the child's placement, ensure that access to education is not disrupted to the extent possible. Recommendations could include admission or readmission into school, support for tuitions, provision of books, and escorts to appear for classes and exams in a timely manner if the child has been institutionalized, as delays could cause a loss of an entire academic year. Vocational training may be recommended for children not accessing formal education, for which assistance from the DCPU or the skill development programs of the Government of India may be recommended, with specific information about the names of organizations or agencies in the locality who can provide such services.
To sum up, these 7 elements must be considered while assessing the best interests of the child and making recommendations to the CWC through the SIR. The importance you give to each element may vary based on the child's specific circumstances, and the nature of the case. Conflicting elements such as family preservation versus protection from harm must be carefully noted into your analysis and balanced when framing your final recommendations, explaining your reasons for doing so. Finally, your assessment of the child's best interests must not only be focused on the current circumstances of the child but on both immediate and long-term needs.